Phoenix here. So what's happened? Napoli crowned champions of Italy for the fourth time in their history, and Inter have now lost their third title, if you will, of the season with one to go. As always, just before we get into it, a quick mention on the despicable behavior that happened yesterday again in my stream. At this point, obviously, I shouldn't be surprised anymore because we've learned by now the type of sad, miserable losers that come in to hate watch, but again, sickening and vile scenes. And I mentioned this yesterday on stream, and I'll say it again. The only reason I'm continuing to do this is for the people that are tuning in to show love, to show support, to improve their football knowledge. Because for the rest, you are as good as dead to me. So we'll leave that at that, because, you know, if we continue, I'll lose my head if it's not already lost. Obviously, both teams ended up winning yesterday. We done our jobs, but of course, Napoli won their game. The question is, I suppose, did Napoli win it or did Inter lose it? When a team wins it with 82 points, scoring only 59 goals in a season, you get the feeling that, of course, it's more Inter that lost it than Napoli that won it. The obvious thing is, if you look at that squad, if you look at that team, and even with the players they had missing, fact of the matter is, I'd only put 2 players from the Napoli team that gets into the Inter team. The centre back Buongiorno gets in, and McTominay gets in with the way he played this season. That's it. I've criticized referees. Inter themselves have criticized referees, but I don't want to hear excuses from the club. A league title is played over 38 matches, and to lose a league title to that is simply unacceptable and unforgiving. A lot of people are saying, well, of course, now, you know, if we win the Champions League, it can all be forgotten. It'll be minimized. But this will hurt for years and years to come. We'll look back at 2002. We'll look back at 2022. I'd argue this hurts the most because of the team we lost it against. And I don't want to sound like I'm crying too much. I want to give full credit to Napoli for winning the league. You know, I always say, if Inter can't win it, then the most important thing then after that is to make sure that Juventus and Milan don't win the league. And they didn't. And of course, you know, my admiration for the Don, for me, I've always said this now, he'll go down as, with this, the greatest Italian manager of all time. I don't want to hear Ancelotti this and Ancelotti that, but he hasn't won a Champions League this, Champions League that. He's won the Serie A now with 3 different teams, which has never been done before. He's on 5 total Serie A titles. He'll probably get the record by the time he retires. And of course, you know, still that Premier League he won at Chelsea. I've never seen a manager that is able to take over a team that had a disastrous season, because if you will, it's exactly carbon copy to the Chelsea situation. Chelsea won the league in 2015. Napoli won the league in 2023. Chelsea finished 10th in 2016. Napoli finished 10th in 2024. Conte takes over and wins in his first season with both clubs. What makes this Napoli one obviously 10 times more impressive is that he lost his 2 best players in Osimhen and Kvara for half a season, and he didn't replace Kvara. And people will be like, oh, but you know, Lukaku is always his trusted soldier. This is not the same Lukaku. This is a fat, overweight Lukaku, who, despite scoring a great goal yesterday, the Napoli fans will be the first to tell you, I mean, he's got nothing on Osimhen, not this current version of Lukaku. And for me, before I go into more detail, I want to touch quickly upon this fat excuse of a loser of a human being. Because the reason why all of this has happened is because of him. Because we, despite really not needing to, or we shouldn't have, we brought him back, you know. It all goes back to when we won the league. We didn't need to sell many players. We sold Hakimi because we expected that was the only player that was going to leave Inter. We kept him. Then he says he wants to leave because we received that offer from Chelsea and he wants to go back home. Within 3 months, he's throwing a fit claim and he wants to come back to Inter. So somehow, some way, we pull off a miracle to bring him back to Inter the following season. And what does he do? He costs us a Champions League final. But then no, we still told him after doing that, we want to keep you, we want to bring you permanently to the club. What does Fatty do? 3 days a week before the Champions League final against Manchester City, he's there flirting behind our backs with Juventus. So then, at that point, we had already sold Dzeko. And we bring in Arnautovic. 2 years when he first left, we bring in Correa. So he's the reason why all of this even happened to begin with. The respect that I had for this man, and I can't even call him a man because he's a child. He may be 6'4", he may weigh 100 kilograms, but he's a child at heart. It's negligible. Zero. I can't even say thank you for the 2021, where that was and will always be the best version of Lukaku. But what and how he has acted over the past years, he is as good as dead to me. But alas, congratulations to Napoli and Conte on their title. McTominay is now being labelled as this superstar and he won the MVP, when in reality, trust me, he's not. But that's what Conte does best. And not to go back to Manchester United, but again, it is always it's their fans coming in, even yesterday after they lost the Europa League, coming in yesterday to talk trash about my team who has a Champions League final next season. But this is the difference between top managers and loser managers. Even Conte was willing to adapt and adjust his formation and his tactics. That's what great managers do. Okay? He didn't stick with 3 at the back when he realized that his team couldn't play 3 at the back. So he changed to 4 and he wins the league. McTominay, he understood. People are like, oh, but McTominay couldn't hack it in the Premier League. No, look at him in the Serie A. The guy is still the same McTominay. Nothing has changed. The only difference is Conte told him, you get in the box because that's the only thing you're good at. I don't want you involved with the ball at your feet in these kind of situations like Manchester United were using him. McTominay ain't press resistant. No, chuck him in the box and chuck the ball to him. That's it. He doesn't do anything else. Serie A MVP. But I'll get into all those awards at some point in other videos next week. But either way, with Inter, what does this mean for Inter? Now, it means it's do or die. It means I could be done with the sport if we don't beat PSG in a week's time. That's what the club has now done. We put everything in the Champions League final. We've lost the Super Cup. We have lost the Cup. We have lost the league. This will go down as, probably the worst league the worst season in our history. And people are like, oh, but you watch your club finish 9th. You watch your team play with the likes of Kuzmanovic, Nagatomo, Guarin. I don't even want to get into Jonathan, all those names, all those loser players. But the fact of the matter is, there was no expectations with that team. I had no expectations. With this club, we are the best team in Italy. And we're going to potentially finish with 0 trophies. But of course, it's all now dependent on May the 31st. Because if we do win the Champions League final, then everything is forgiven to some degree. But like I said, I will forgive, but I will not forget, nor should any Inter fan. It is a stain on Inzaghi's legacy. It is a stain on the management's legacy, because that's where all the damage starts from. All this talk about Inter are the best team in the league. We are the best team in the league, yes. But we didn't get there by spending the most money. That's what I find absolutely hilarious, and the fact that people forget. No talk about Juventus. Yet Juventus were constructed to win a league title this season. They've still spent the most money. But no talk about Juventus. Buying the best midfielder in the league last season from Italy. Buying one of the best midfielders in the Premier League in Douglas Luiz. No talk, no mention about Juventus. No mention about a Milan team that finished 9th. That again, were constructed to win league titles. That's where the most admiration and respect I have for Conte is, because Napoli, despite spending money, they lost their best 2 players. They weren't expected to challenge or fight for the title this season. They only did because of Conte. And that's the effect that a manager has. This is what I was trying to educate people, those moronic United fans. A manager in modern football is everything. But back to winter, this team wasn't constructed by spending the most money to be the best team in the league. It became the best team in the league because we purchased smart. We developed players. And that's a key thing that is often forgotten. All this talk about the depth Inter have. Yeah, we have or may have had better depth than Napoli. But when you're playing 2-3 games a week and they're playing 1 game a week, that to some degree cancels out. But also we know the players that Inter have had to rely upon this season. Look at that second squad that Inter have. Only 2 real starters in that team. Look at those players. Those players aren't getting anywhere near the Napoli team. They're not getting anywhere near the Manchester United team. I mean, they're not. Oh, sorry, Manchester United. Not getting anywhere near the Juventus team. The Milan team. They'll get in the United team, but they're not getting anywhere near any of those other Serie A teams. So this idea that again Inter bought their way to becoming the best team in Italy, that could not be further from the truth. But it is on the management. They gambled in the summer. It was a poor market. It was a poor window even the year before. But at some point, it's going to catch up to you. Now, Oaktree have a summer where we have to look at them dead in the eye and say, where do you want to take this club? Because even if we become champions of Europe next week, and that changes everything, but we still need to buy 7 or 8 players minimum. Otherwise, Inter are in big, big trouble. And next season, seeing the way Napoli have celebrated, the way Conte have celebrated, I'm not saying don't celebrate, I'm not the celebration police. Seeing the way they cried about referees, the irony, with Conte in all likelihood now going to Juventus. Failure in Italy will not be accepted. Inzaghi, you better win the league next season, or you can piss off to Saudi. Because losing 2 league titles to 2 of the worst teams ever assembled is simply unforgiving.